And now allow me to introduce you. Apparently, we will have a kind of demonstration of hunting case. So there is a session named Intelligent Deception Technology as a part of safeguarding sensitive systems and data, demonstration of a hunting use case. And allow me to introduce you Mr. Jan Rydval, Regional Senior System Engineer for Central Eastern Europe, Fidelis Cybersecurity, and Alexander Mašek, Regional Director for Central Eastern Europe from Fidelis Cybersecurity. Gentlemen, do you need a pointer? Yeah, it's pretty heavy.
It's really heavy. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We were already introduced, so we jump into our presentation directly. I will have just few slides. Oh, sorry. I will have just few slides, and will allow my colleague to show you something from the real world. So it's time to rethink the cybersecurity, I guess you know, and coming to cyber resiliency. There were a couple of people talking about the resiliency. I will just very shortly make sort of a summary. Security is the your state of being free from threat or danger. So if you have the ability to keep the bad guys out, you're secure. We have today the environments that are really very changing and are diverse and are distributed. So where's the perimeter? We don't know how to keep the bad guys out if the perimeter is shifting all the time. So that's why resilience is more focused on quick recovery. Security is binary in nature, so you're either secure or not. It's simplistic for today's world. So in resilience, we always think that somebody is in the network, that we are under attack, that we need to think about how to recover, that we need to make sure that our business will not be touched too much. So what works today most likely will not work tomorrow. So this is really dynamic in nature. Security is focused on prevention. You must have the prevention, that's for sure. On the other side, resilience is focused on proactive defense. Everybody knows what is proactive defense. This is a term which is used very frequently. You definitely all know. And the security response is centered on damage control. So you're going to fix after the attack. While resilience maintains the business continuity throughout the attack, throughout the running attack. So we are going to meet the world where it is. So being very chaotic, messy, unpredictable, variable, and constantly evolving. We must, let's say, be ready for the change. We must meet the change in a real time. So does it mean that security is dead? No, absolutely not. Security is a must. This is your perimetric prevention or protection. But the resilience plan hopes for the best, but plans for the worst. We always need to be ready for the changes, and we always need to assume that somebody is there, somebody is attacking, that we are under constant attack, and somebody is in our environment. We need to employ tools that rapidly respond. We need to find tools that will be proactive, like the deception, intelligent deception system, which we will show you a little bit later. And we need to employ also the machine learning systems that are able to analyze your environment, determine what is happening there, and find a way how to get rid of it. As the gentleman from Bitdefender said, I also don't believe too much in artificial intelligence yet. It's not yet. It's machine learning. It's maybe very deep machine learning, but not artificial intelligence. And you need to practice. You need to make these red and blue teaming exercises to be ready when something really seriously happens and you need to react. Because on paper it's something, but in reality it's something different. So let me introduce you a little bit the active deception. The big advantages of this system is it's a post-breach detection. So you are looking for somebody who breached your perimetric protection already or somebody who is attacking from inside. It is early stage attack detection. This is very important, especially for the ransomware type of attacks. You still have some chance to stop it because the attackers are scanning the network, they jump on you, on your decoy, you know about them, and you have certain time, like 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, to stop it. It's securing not only the assets where you can install the EPP or EDR or whatever agent, but also the other stuff of IoT, like cameras, storages, active network elements, NASes, whatever. There is no false positive. It's a big advantage. If somebody jumps on your decoy, it's a relevant, a real, valid alert, and you should react. We, in Fidelis, we have two types of decoys. We have either emulation, which has a little bit shorter interaction with the attacker. On the other side, it's very safe. You have no chance, the attacker has no chance to jump in. Or based on real OS, where you can have much longer interactivity with the attacker, you can find out what he is intending to do, but there is a little bit danger that they can go inside. That's why we also stop these decoys after 10 minutes. And we have everything integrated with XDR. This is a big advantage to have the content. So we have integration and many functionalities that are coming from integration of decoys, or let's say deception systems, with network detection and response systems, and with endpoint detection and response system. Decoys can be hardware and can emulate the software and the services which are running on these hardware. And we have something what is called breadcrumbs, something what to lure the attackers to come to the decoy, something attractive. Our decoys are not like honeypots, something very passive, sitting somewhere waiting if somebody will jump on it. We are very active, showing the services, offering something, looking for proxies, for example, and so on.
And besides the breadcrumbs, today we have also so-called canary files, which are also luring the attackers to the decoys, which will report to the decoys that they were open somewhere. So canary file could be a Word document or Excel sheet or whatever. And when somebody is looking at that, it will report to the decoy, hey, I'm just being read by somebody. So it's also the way how we are able to detect that some document left the organization and maybe shouldn't do that.
Okay, Jan, I will definitely ask you now to show how we do the hunting, because very important part of the resiliency is the proactive approach, as I said, and you need to do the proactive hunting. So you create your hypothesis, and then you are going to verify them, either to confirm or to refuse. But as I said, you should come out from the idea that somebody definitely is there. By the way, Jan was one of the two guys who, with this real case, was investigating in that time. So feel free to grill him.
Yeah, we are going to tell you a story which started as a detection made by deception system. So at the beginning, there was an alert made by Fidelis deception system. Actually, we just installed a POC system for our customer, and customer asked us, help us understand what's behind this alert. We do not understand what's behind. And it's a deception alert, so we expected it could be quite easy, or it should be quite easy. If there is a deception alert, it's quite obvious what's happening. So we looked at the system, and we saw something like that. So alerts like this one. This is not the recorded case I'm speaking about. We replayed the whole story on our demo system to have kind of like anonymized data, anonymized alerts and metadata for these purposes. So it's not completely one-to-one, but it's like as similar as possible to the real case. So we saw this alert. You can see that it was like massive port scanning of a decoy. This is IP address of decoy. What was a little bit strange is who scanned the decoy. You can see that it's not a private IP address, it's public IP address from the internet. So we asked the customer, is that possible that you have a hole in your firewall, like destination NAT rule, which allows such a communication? And the customer answered, no way, it's not the case. But it's better to check that, so we asked the system, show me the metadata for this communication. And we had a sensor at the parameter. And the response was like that. There is no such connection. So what would be there?
So this was the confirmation of the network NDR system. Yeah?
Yeah.
There was no communication going over the network.
If there was a connection, we would see something like this. So, but you saw empty screen. So there wasn't a connection going from the internet to the internal network. So what could be behind? So after some time, we got idea that it could be idle scan. Do you know idle scan? It's the way how to scan your network without revealing your real IP address. You need to have so-called zombie, like somebody else who will scan you, and I will control this zombie, or I will misuse at least the zombie for my purposes. So next idea was, or next assumption was, we are probably looking at the case when somebody is like using idle scan to scan the rest of the network. There are probably two well-known tools which are able to do that, hping and nmap. So we started by simple search into EDR metadata. We asked the system, show us all occurrences when a process called hping was executed or started on any of the endpoints. And the result was like empty screen, so we changed the idea. Okay, so it wasn't hping, it was maybe nmap, or maybe it could be some custom application. But we started with the most common ones. Yeah, and we found an endpoint where the nmap was started, in this case like 1 year ago. And if we go into the details, we will realize that it's actually really idle scanned. I'm not sure if this text is readable, but you can see minus SI, this switch is telling nmap use idle scan approach. So we realized that our assumption was really the right one, and we confirmed our assumption using endpoint metadata. So now maybe we would like to know if the guy who owns this endpoint is the attacker or also kind of victim, like that somebody else is remotely controlling his endpoint. So the next question to the system was, how did it happen that nmap is installed on the endpoint? Is it copied, installed? How did that happen? So we asked the system for metadata this time for file with name nmap.exe, but the behavior time file create. We ask the system how the file was created on the endpoint, and the system answered it was created by nmap setup.exe process, so it was regularly installed. I can jump into detailed view, and I can see the process tree for this. So I can see that the nmap installer was started by Firefox, and I would be able to find in Firefox metadata that user actually pointed his browser to nmap.org website and downloaded the installer before installing that, and after that running nmap nearly immediately after installation for idle scan purposes. So we actually investigated what's behind. At the beginning, there was a deception alert. We validated, or actually invalidated, our first assumption about the destination not true on the firewall by using network metadata. And then we validated our second assumption about idle scan by using endpoint metadata. So it shows that it makes sense to deploy like whole platform, like active XDR solution, which is having EDR, NDR, and deception components.
The attacker at the end, using the Mimikat, was increasing his, let's say, authority rights. He was able to touch the classified documents. He was not allowed to see. At the end, he really copied them to the flash disk. We made all the evidence, including the serial number of the flash disk, everything what was copied there, and we just gave it to the police. Yeah, and he left the company like this.
Yeah, we created a playbook which collected the files which were copied to the flash. So we connected the event like USB media flash is connected to task, like collect the file list on the flash, and thanks to that we had like complete evidence package for police actually.
So, any questions or?
Yeah, I think we have some questions from one of our specialists in CIO Council.
Hello. Hello. Very nice presentation. I wanted to ask you about the number of sensors that you usually implement throughout an organization. And the second question, how do you emulate the networking part of a deception network and the communication inside an emulated network so that it will appear as real as a real network, right?
So how many sensors do we deploy usually? How many decoys or?
Decoys, of course.
Decoys. So we suggest to have at least 10 to 15% of your real assets implemented as decoys. So if you have 1,000 real assets or IP addresses in use, then it makes sense to have like 100, 150 decoys deployed. And it's quite easily possible because our decoy server, which is the component which publishes the decoys to the network, is able to emulate up to 1,000 decoys. So it's not like expensive approach to do it in this way.
Yeah. And emulated means, or what is the other part of the question?
The networking. How do you emulate also communication among the decoys?
Yeah, our decoys, sometimes somebody is like going to call our decoys honeypots. We do not like that because honeypot for me is something silently waiting for incoming connections, static, not being active on the network, usually just providing one or few services. In our case, the decoy is not about emulating services, it's about emulating entities, like Windows Server serving as domain controller. You can define such a decoy, and it means that the decoy will listen for SMB traffic, LDAP, and remote desktop, and all relevant services. So we are emulating like roles, or let's say that in this way.
Yeah, so for curiosity of mine, so basically should I have an intrusion intrusion detection and the decoy system seems to be, I wouldn't say complementary, but it's a new kind of system, right? So if I'm a company, I'm operating in energy, or I'm operating, I don't know, I'm a bank. Why should I, just work on eliminating the threat immediately rather than, introducing this kind of system?
Deception is a reliable way how to do detections. Alex mentioned that there are no false positives. If there is an alert generated by a decoy, you do not need to think twice. It's sure that something wrong is happening. Either somebody from inside of the organization is too interested in something he or she shouldn't be, or there is a real threat happening. So definitely you need to act anyway.
The deception system is the way how I am going to shake hands with the attacker before he is doing something in my talk. So it's proactive part. It's very proactive, and I'm trying to lure them to show me what they want to do.
Okay.
And I'm trying to catch them and to isolate them and so on.
Okay, so it's more than a honeypot, a static one. Yeah?
Absolutely. Honeypot is acting with the internet. We are in the internal infrastructure, only in the internal.
And we can be really dynamic, so we are able to react to the changes in ICT environment. If you replace your MS SQL servers with Oracle, the decoy system will realize that something changed and will redeploy the decoys to mimic the behavior of the other components.
Okay, I got to read more about this kind of system. But anyway, corroborating with what one of the speakers mentioned at the early stage in the conference, that 277 days are passing until we are detecting, a presence into our network.
Average time, yeah.
Yeah, there is a lot of time they can do something, and with this kind of system, we can, detect them immediately and act proactively. All right, thank you very much.
There are some people, they come and say, we were under attack. I say, no, you are under attack. All the time you are under attack.
Okay, thank you very much. It was a really, really interesting presentation, and I'd like to jump in more. Jan, Rydval, and Alexander Mašek.